Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is Puppeteer full tutorial series for absolute beginners. In today's episode, we are going to attempt a use case which is little advanced, but at the same time very critical, very important from a data extraction and web scraping point of view. In this episode, we will learn when given a sitemap to us, we will learn how to extract the URLs from that particular sitemap. We will learn how to parse those URLs. The complexity arises because in a given sitemap, the number of URLs will be a lot more. And then you need to write a promise to resolve all those URLs, extract data, and much more. So this is one of those classic advanced use cases that you should be aware and you should master it. That being said, let's get started with today's episode. This is part 22 of the series. If you have missed out on the first 21 episodes, make sure that you go through each one of them so that you can learn and master this series end to end. Following are the topics that I've covered end to end in details. I'm sure that after this series, you will be able to master Puppeteer with me. So what are we going to do today? Today we will learn how to extract the data from a sitemap, and we will make a Axios call. We will learn methods like launch, new page, evaluate, parse string promise, page close, browser close, and much more. That's the context. Let's get started with the coding. I'll open the editor. I'll create a new file, 22.js. Alright, so before we start this episode, like I said, we will need to parse the sitemap, and we will also need to make a Axios call to get that data from the sitemap. So we will need to install two libraries for that. One would be Axios, through which we will make the call. So that is installed. The next I will install is npm install xml2js. This is a library which will help us parse the XML file. Alright, so those two are installed. So let's import them into our file. First, the Puppeteer library. Let's import the Axios. Let's import from XML. So we need acquire XML to JS, and from this we will need a module called parse string. That's what we will need. We will also try and write it to a JSON, so I'm importing the file system. That's all you will need. And let's go ahead and we will break this down into multiple small use cases, and then we'll go from there. So extract data from sitemap. So what will be the input? The input will be a sitemap URL. That's what we'll pass it to this method. And we'll write a try catch. And let's do a console log if there is error. And error. Alright. Now let's try calling this extract data, and this is where we'll pass the sitemap URL equal to. So I'm going to use a URL which I know, which is from a website called yoast.com. Now this is a website which is used for creating the sitemaps, basically for WordPress blogs, etc. So I'm using that. I know this URL, so you can also copy this URL and check it in the browser once. So page sitemap, so it will give you all the links that are available as part of this particular sitemap, and these are all the URLs and their information, right? So typical sitemap would look like this. So we have a sample sitemap XML to try and run against. Now for the try block, what we'll do is first we'll make a Axios call and get those details from the sitemap. So we have a sitemap, but we need to make that call, API call, and get that response. And then we will extract the sitemap equal to response.data. So that will give us the entire sitemap. So I'm going to do a couple of console logs just to make sure that we are heading right way. And to run this, we will do episode 2.js. So it says So looks like Axios error, unable to extract the data. Something has failed. Let's see what it has failed. Browser seems to be hanging. Keep waiting and let's try and close this. Looks like the page got hanged. Just alright, so let's try and reopen it. Okay, for some reason it got hanged, maybe my network problem. Alright, so we are here. It says unable to get, right? So let's see, it says connection refused. Looks like something. Let's try that again and see why that has failed. Axios.get sitemap URL. That's okay because we did not pass it, so we don't know which one to access. I think now it should be fine. It will make the Axios call and the sitemap is printed here. You can see. So we have the URL set, we have the URL and the images that it has pulled up. Nice. Alright. So once we know that the sitemap is extracted, the next thing we will do is we'll parse this XML using this parse string promise that we imported from XML to JS, and we will pass the sitemap. So now we have got the parsed XML, so we can extract the URLs from this parsed XML. So we are going to write parsed XML dot, if you see this object, it is URL set, so we are going to write URL set dot. Now you can see inside URL set there is each URLs that are getting mapped, so we are writing URL dot map, and this would be the actual URL dot. Inside this we would have the location, which will give us the URL of that particular sitemap URL. So let's do a console log of URLs to check if we are getting the correct thing. It may be a little complicated, but it looks complicated. It's not actually, it's straightforward. So see, we extracted all the URLs now into an array. So these are the things we do it. First, we are making an Axios call to get the entire sitemap. Once we receive the sitemap, we are using parse string promise to extract the parsed XML. From that, we are extracting the top level is URL set. Then we have the URLs, and for each of the URL we are mapping, extracting the link, which are these links. So we got the URLs, right? Nice. So next thing we'll do is to go over this and extract the data that we need. Okay, so let's build that promise object and we can then go about getting the data. So what we'll do is we'll now create the browser instance and we'll say await Puppeteer launch. Okay, so I'm going to move this little down so it's much clearer. So now we have got the browser.launch. Now we are going to build a promise, because data promise is equal to, now we will loop through each of that particular values that we have received in the URLs, and then we will extract the data that we need from that. So here, now from each of this URL, what do we want? Let's say we will extract, what do you want to extract? Let's say first we'll create the browser page, new page we have created, and we are saying page dot go to the URL, go to that URL, and then what it needs to do, it needs to extract some data from that particular page. So we will use page evaluate, and in this what we'll do is, from for each of the page, let's extract the title for now, right? So I'm going to say document title. Okay, you can extract other details like meta description, etc, etc, but for now I'll keep it simple for you so that you don't get confused. I'm just extracting the title from all the URLs that are there in this particular sitemap URL, right? Now Once you have that, you can then close the page. Here you have extracted this particular data, and once you extract that, the next thing we'll do is we will close the page. Once you have closed the page, then what you can do is you can return the data. Alright, so we have the we need to return the value here. Return, let's say title. For now we are returning the title, and then we are closing the page. Once we have closed the page, we'll return the data that we got, which is the titles of all the URLs, and that should be it. But this is only the promise that we have created. We are not yet executed it, right? So what we will need to do is create a promise.all so that we can loop through each one of them. So I'm going to say output data equal to sitemap data.json, and then we will write our promise.all, which is what will use it. So here what I'll do is I'll create a new, and here we are going to write await promise.all. And what are the promises that we created here? That means loop through all the URLs, right? So that's what the promise we have created. Once all of that is resolved, we will be writing that into a file output. So I'm going to write it in a file sync output path, which we have given output data, and then you can mention the other details if you want, like UTF, etc. But the main thing that we want to write is only the scrap data, right? So we'll do that and close this here. And last thing we will need is to close our browser. So I'm going to say browser.close. That's it. Alright, so let's review this once. So first we are extracting data from sitemap, right? That's what we are doing here using an Axios call. The next thing we are doing is parse these XML sitemap. Once you have it, you are extracting the URLs, right? And then you launch the browser launch, and once you have that, you will create the promise of looping all the URLs. Okay, once you have that, you create a file name, which is where output file name data, right? Output file name, and then resolve the promises here. That means once you have looped through each of the URL, whether it is resolving, whether it is failing, get all the data, and finally write it to the output file. Okay, that's all we are doing, and finally we are closing the browser. Perfect. I think this should work. Okay, alright, so let's go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to bring up the browser and run this. It will take a while because the number of URLs are more, so let's hold on to that few minutes. But in the meanwhile, please do hit that like button, subscribe button, and do let me know in the comment section your feedback. I really love reading your comments, and thank you so much for showing love to my channel. Alright, so it says scraping data. So this looks like scraping data array, because the scrap data array, this should be the one. So it's not able to write to that file, so let's clear it. Now let's run again. So it has written. Let's see the output. So this has got all the details. Okay, so it says bad request, failed failed with status 429. So I'm not sure what that is, but let's try. Maybe some network issue at my end. Alright, looks okay to me. So let's run it again. Episode 22.js. Maybe because it's getting blocked or something at my end. It says bad request. So let me do one thing. Let me change to there are too many URLs, so that's why it's not allowing, I guess. But what I'm going to do instead is going to take some other sitemap XML and let's see if that is something. Okay, so it says you are being rate limited, right? So that means this website is not allowing us um, because of restriction at their end, which makes sense. The other way to fix that is maybe I can go to some other website, say google.com/sitemap.xml. So we have too many I think sitemaps here. This won't work, but the idea is to get a website, beginner.com/site. Let's try some other website and see if they allow us to access the sitemap. Looks like this is also not loading. So basically you will need a sitemap that you can access, and that's what we are trying to see. The current one that I have is not allowing, so let's see if I can get a sitemap. Okay, I got the sitemap, page.sitemap. Okay, so there are too many pages, but I think they should work for us. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have to get one URL which will work correctly. Now I am working on WP beginner, so let's see how that goes. I hope it goes through fine. So page sitemap.xml, now it's working. Let's see, I hope it goes through. Let's give it one quick minute. So these are some of the advanced use cases where right now I'm accessing external third-party sitemaps, but usually you will do it on your own website. Alright, so it has done its job and sitemap data extracted. So you see titles are extracted from all the web pages of WP beginner, right? So beautiful. So that's, I am just extracting title because I don't want to run into any issues of data privacy, etc. But you know that when you're working on real time in your own application, you will be able to extract the data that you want, present it the way you want it. Okay, this was a little advanced where we did a lot of use cases like extracting the sitemap, parsing the XML, extracting the URLs, then looping through each of the URL, getting the data, finally writing it to the file, right? So we'll continue building in this series, but for now I think you know how to parse and extract the data from the sitemaps. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed this series. Going forward, I will do some advanced use cases in this particular series. I'll also create some more tutorials as part of this series, but for now this series comes to an end here. I will do some projects, advanced use cases going forward on Puppeteer. Do let me know what you think of this particular series. Was it useful? Please share your feedback, your love. I really love reading your comments, so please keep that coming. Thank you so much for joining, and I wish you happy learning. Keep learning, keep growing. See you in some other series on ARC tutorials. Thank you.